Welcome to another episode of Monster Monday from the Ready to Die channel. This series explores the design of a creature I have built for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. The stat block for this creature can be found over on the Monster Monday blog, as well as the Twitter and Discord, all of which are linked below. I want to start off with an apology for the break. Work was unusually busy and caused my schedule to slip up slightly. From here on out, we should be good until around the Christmas weeks when I have family coming over. On that topic, I come bearing a gift. A build for Mohg, Lord of Blood, from the game Elden Ring.
Welcome, honored guest, to the birthplace of our dynasty.
This was another request over on the Monster Monday Discord that I'm trying to fulfill. Hopefully I succeeded in doing so, but that will be up to you. Being a non-necessary encounter of the game, it was difficult to figure out a level for Mohg, but with some help from peeps on the Discord, we settled on a solid level 18 for this depraved demigod. Being a child of the major god of the setting, I probably could have pushed for higher, as seen with the likes of Tree Raiser, and building him as a creature at several levels might also not have been a bad idea, but it is honestly more work than I wanted to do for this guy. Despite being a demigod, Mohg is an omen, who was born under a curse and then further allied himself with an outer god known as the Formless Mother, who taught him his blood flame magic. Given his omen nature and association with this figure, I liked the aberration and mutant traits for him. Mohg makes powerful but unwieldy attacks with his giant trident, and this, coupled with his use of magic, influenced my decision to build him as something of a caster. Appropriately, his foremost ability score is intelligence, but while his form is sloppy, his attacks are powerful, and he's fairly sturdy, leading to the use of a high strength and constitution. He is a bit cumbersome, lending to a low dexterity, and while he's built up a cult around himself, he seems detested by those that actually know him, and will use a low charisma as well. Given his connection to an outer god, I decided to use an extreme bonus for occultism, a high arcana for his magic, and then still wanted him to be menacing, and added the intimidation skill with a moderate bonus. I'll admit, in my first iteration, Mohg was a bit of a mess when it came to his defenses. Aside from being a little more fragile as a caster, he was armed with spells and abilities that made me cautious about being too generous with his health. In my concern over these features, I lowballed Mohg slightly, and this unfortunate omen got absolutely shredded. It was like 3 rounds to take him from 100 to 0. So, after that encounter, I gave him some sweeping defense buffs and ran another test with him. In-game, Mohg isn't too hard to land hits on, but has a relatively high pool of hit points, and I tried to design his 2E version likewise. His armor class is only low, but he has moderate hit points, pushing towards a high value. As a caster, I focused on his will with a high bonus. I reasoned that his higher hit points and physical tankiness could lead towards a moderate bonus for his fortitude, but then he's not very nimble, and will therefore use a terrible reflex save. An argument could be made for Demigod having more resistances and immunities, but I base those that he does have off of the weaknesses and resistances present in Elden Ring. Mohg is deadly with that trident of his, but not the most precise. He's also somewhat beholden to using the weapon's damage. His attacks with the weapon have a moderate bonus, while his damage falls in between low and moderate, which is appropriate for a creature with a casting focus. And while he doesn't throw the trident in Elden Ring, it is a base feature of the trident weapon in Pathfinder, and it would have felt weird not to include that. Before digging into his abilities, I want to briefly discuss the spells of Mohg. With his focus on casting and taking into account some of the class features that characters have at this level to counter save effects, he uses a save DC and spell attack bonus between high and extreme. The main focus of his spells is in the manipulation of blood, terror, and a little bit of fire, things I think that he could have accomplished in the grander scheme of things, but simply aren't represented in his boss battle. While its effect is simplistic, I do particularly like his Boil Blood for merging his themes of fire and blood. Meanwhile, his horrifying blood loss, Mask of Terror, and Grisly Growths gives him some debilitating effects. The last of these also calls to mind his own overgrown horns, which have started stepping back into his features. Moving on to the abilities I designed, we will start with Mohg's Aura, Lord of Blood. Unusually, this aura isn't about hurting enemies, but instead about buffing Mohg when certain conditions are met. This is based on the 20% damage boost he receives when he or an enemy suffer blood loss. Now, whereas Hemorrhage in Elden Ring is a big pop of damage at once following its buildup, I decided to stick with persistent bleed damage to represent it in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Therefore, this aura activates when Mohg or another creature within it is taking that persistent bleed damage. When something is, both the damage of his spells and his trident increase, with the latter reaching moderate damage with this bonus. This also allowed me to artificially inflate Mohg's HP and tie into his theme by having him gain temporary HP whenever something bleeds. which felt balanced by the fact that he can't stack it with other source of temp HP, such as those from his vampiric spells. Mohg generates a number of unique features in his boss fight that I couldn't recreate with spells alone, which is where his abilities started really coming into play. His Blood Boon involves tossing Blood Flame across the battlefield that sets it ablaze and causes hemorrhage to build up. So, Pathfinder 2e Blood Boon creates areas of hazardous terrain that cause those affected by it to start bleeding, as their skin dries, withers, and cracks in the flames to create weeping wounds. This bleed effect utilizes a low DC, given that the area persists for 5 rounds after Mohg spends only 2 actions on it, though I did reason the bleed should only be once per round when you move through multiple squares. When he's already in the mix of melee, Mohg can swap out his Trident strikes for a quick rake of his claw with Blood Flame Talons. With their limited use, these claws use a spell attack roll and deal moderate damage, but also leave blazing scratch marks in the air that heat up before finally detonating. I wanted to keep this as a single action, letting Mohg potentially combo it with spells, and tried to balance it around that. Its explosion uses a high DC and deals damage as though it were an unlimited use area effect. However, it is restrained to only the targeted square. Chances are players will move, especially if they know what's going to happen, but this might be useful to force repositions, or if Mohg is attended to by servitors that have ways to punish that movement. Before talking about Mohg's Bloody Right, there is one other ability we have to discuss, Ominous Mark. With a name based on his status as an omen, this is meant to represent his ritual countdown, while also accounting for the team nature of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Keeping this as a single action means that he can mix it up with his swipes or spells and also matches well with the fact that it doesn't actually do anything, at least not initially. This is also what influenced the use of an extreme DC, because this is only a setup ability. Mohg can still potentially do the whole countdown by using this action multiple times, which he may want to depending on how saves go. But the marks this leave behind only really find their use in his Bloody Right, a rename of his Blood Boon ritual to cut down on confusion. This is what initiates Mohg's second phase, a mainstay of the series that he arises from. The second phase sees him gain wings and coat his trident in Blood Flame, which is represented by the fly speed he gains and the additional fire damage on his trident. Given that these flames are supposed to be blood flames, it also has a high fortitude save to avoid bleeding, much like his Blood Boon. But before all that is the damage itself. At first glance, this deals absolutely piddly damage. 5d6 is nothing, especially with only a high save. But this is why it is important for Mohg to spread his marks before he hits half health. At 0 marks, he's dealing half unlimited use area damage on a once per day ability. At 1 mark, he's at just above unlimited use damage. 2 marks sees him breaking past that barrier, and 3 marks is where it gets juicy. 3 marks sees him dealing just over limited use area damage, though just by a smidge. He also heals based on the damage he deals, which is why I was a little conservative with that damage. This also reflects the heal during his fight in Elden Ring, and I did specifically want this to be healing instead of just temporary HP, so it could stack with those effects. Without much pain, we have reached the conclusion of this build. This monstrous morbid master macabre magic makes mincemeat out of munchkins, melting and massacring meatheads most maliciously. Obviously, as a unique monster representing a boss from a video game, he works best in such a position in a campaign. With his level, cult, and goals, he could even be the main villain of a campaign, featuring his attempt at raising his unwilling consort to godhood. An adventure that makes use of relics or other greater powers might be particularly fitting, with the gods empowering the heroes to stop this upstart demigod. Anyway, that is it for today. You can check out the Monster Monday blog and Twitter for the stat blocks, or hop on the Discord to join the monster making and general tabletop discussions. These posts also include a Pathfinder 1st Edition version of the monster, along with a D&D 5e conversion. Thanks for watching, and have a monstrous Monday.